Hi everybody and welcome. Today I'm going to go through Lesson 3 of Computer Science Discoveries. In Lesson 3 we're going to discover drawing in Game Lab. So, as always, the question of the day is how can we communicate to a computer how to draw shapes on the screen? So today you're going to learn about using the ellipse and the rectangle and the fill color. Some vocab to keep in mind: bug. A bug is part of a program that does not work correctly. Debugging is finding and fixing problems in an algorithm or program. And program is an algorithm that has been coded into something that can be run by a machine. So let's get started. So welcome to Game Lab. This is how Game Lab is going to look from here on out. To the left, you're going to have a Game Lab mat. This is where all of your sprites and activities are going to show up. You will click the run to get things to show up there, and you can also show grid. Show grid allows you to see the X and Y coordinate grid, which makes it easier to place your sprites and things on the screen. In the middle of your screen, you have the instructions. Instructions are always nice to follow. They give you a little bit of a preview, update of what's going on. And then the most important part is the do this. Do this tells you exactly what needs to be done in order to complete this level. So let's take a look here. Our do this for level 2 is look at the line of code in the workspace below these instructions and discuss what we think will be drawn on the grid. We will then click run to run the program and see what happens. We'll change the numbers inside the block, then try running the program again. We are going to try to place the rectangle near the bottom right of the screen. So I've already hit run. We see that our rectangle or our square shows up in the top left corner of our Game Lab. In our workspace, which is in the middle of our screen, this is where the code is. This piece of code here is what showed up here. Pretty cool, huh? This right here is our toolbox. In our toolbox, we have all of the code pieces that we need. And in order to add another piece of code, we just click, drag, and drop. Did you notice that yellow line? Let me show you again. Click, and drop. That yellow line tells me where the code is going to go. And if you want to get rid of a piece of code, just grab a hold of it, drag it over, and let go. Just like that, it disappears. So in this rectangle, we see 100, 100. That 100, 100 indicates the X and the Y position of the rectangle. So the first number is the X position, and the second number is the Y position. Notice that I'm also hovering over this piece of code, and you get a little blue box that pops up that allows you to see examples. If you ever get stuck, don't forget this feature, because sometimes seeing examples really can help. So in this level, I'm supposed to get this block all the way down to the bottom right corner of the screen. So I'm going to start by just changing the X value. I'm going to go to 200, reset, and let's see what happens. I'm going to hit run. So my block moved over to the right a little bit more. So let me try changing the Y value to 200 and see what happens. Reset and run. Well, look, it moved down the screen. That's interesting because I bet you in math class you're used to the Y value increasing, things going up. However, in Game Lab, your 0, 0 or your point of origin is in the top left of your Game Lab, right here. And you can even see where it says 0, 0. So that means anytime we increase the Y value, as you can see down here in this area, as I move my mouse along, as we increase in Y value, we have to go down. Pretty cool. Alright, so I'm supposed to get this square in this bottom right corner. So let me try 300. 300x. Okay, we're getting closer. Now let's try 300y. Alright, closer still. Now, let's try 400. Oh man, where'd it go? Well, I'll tell you what, it didn't completely disappear, even though it feels like it did. Where it went is right here. Can't see it? That's because it's off the Game Lab screen. So, what's interesting to note about plotting rectangles or squares is that it plots the point from the top right or top left corner. Top left corner. Handy to know when you're trying to get a square in the bottom right corner. So, the top right corner is right here. Got my mouse on it, and I can see down below my reset button, I'm around 298, 297. Well, that makes sense, right? Because look over in my workspace. Line 1 of my code says rectangle 300, 300. So, that must be 300, 300. So, if I want this corner to end up right here, what coordinates do I need? Well, take a look down below my reset button. Pretty darn close to 350, 350, wouldn't you say? Let's try it. 350, 350. Reset and run. And there you have it. That's how you get a square into the bottom right corner of your Game Lab screen. Let's hit finish and continue. Da-da-da.
I'm Amara. I'm a student at Dartmouth College, and I love to code and dance. People always thought I was good with technical stuff with computers and phones, and then I did Girls Who Code. And yeah, seeing other girls interested and realizing that it was more accessible than I think I thought was a good gateway into computer science. Welcome to Game Lab. Game Lab is a tool that lets you draw pictures, design animations, and build your own games with code. To create these animations and games, you'll be learning and using the programming language JavaScript. GameLab is designed with the beginning programmer in mind, but it also includes many powerful features to help you bring your creations to life. Let's get started. In GameLab, you can add lines of code to your program by dragging blocks out from the toolbox and snapping them together. Then click the Run button to see the result. The output of the program will show up on the left in the display area. If you prefer, you can also type the commands yourself. Either way you write your code, you can always flip between block mode and text mode. In fact, you can work in text mode and drag blocks out to insert the text. If you make an error, you can use the blocks as a way to check if it's the right command. If you want to get rid of a line of code, just drag the block off the screen. You can also delete it from the text. To start out, you'll be drawing with simple shapes like rectangles and ellipses. That's a fancy name for an oval. To change where shapes show up on the screen, you can change the numbers given to each command. The first two numbers set the position of the shape. The last two numbers change the size. Let's check out an example where we want to move our rectangle down the screen and then make it wider. In GameLab, the X and Y position starts at the top left corner. If we want to move the rectangle down the screen, we actually need to increase the Y value. To make the rectangle wider, we'll also need to increase its width. Learning how to use new commands doesn't have to be trial and error. If you hover over any of the blocks, you can read more about how to use it and see detailed examples of each command. I don't know what I want to do after college, but I know that computer science will give me a lot of opportunities to work in many different industries, which is why I like it so much.
Okay, let's move on to the next level. In level 4, we have to get 2 blocks into the opposite corners of GameLab. So, a big part of using GameLab is understanding position. Remember that you can always turn on the grid or hover with the mouse to find the X and Y positions we want. So take a look at do this. Place 2 rectangles exactly in the corners of the screen, just like the picture. GameLab is great for this because what they'll do over here to the right is they'll always give you some type of an image of what it is that you need to repeat over here on the left. So first I'm going to hit run to see what I have. Alright, so I've got 1 rectangle. I'll turn that grid on to help me. And I know I need to add another rectangle, so I'm going to grab that and drag it over to the right into my workspace. I'm going to hit reset and run again to see what I've got. Alright, so I've got 2 squares or rectangles on my screen, but they don't look quite like this yet. So what I'm going to have to do is consider what coordinate position do I need for the top left corner of this square. Well, if the top left corner of this square is going to end up there, that happens to be, you guessed it, 0, 0. So my first rectangle, coordinate 0, 0. That is 0x and 0y. I'm going to hit reset and run. There it is. Now the second one should be easier because we just did this in level 2. So do you remember what coordinate we need to get that square into this shape down here? Hopefully you remember. We need 350. Whoops. 350. 350. And again, that has to do with the top left corner of the square. And that's it. My game lab looks like the example picture, so we're good to go. Ta-da!
So far, you've only been drawing gray colored shapes. Let's throw some color into these shapes to make them more interesting. Every shape has 2 elements that can be colored, a stroke and a fill. The stroke is the border of the shape. The fill is the color inside the shape. At any point, you can change the color used to draw the stroke or fill of the shape. For example, here we'll change the fill to be the color green before drawing a rectangle. If you draw more rectangles after setting the fill color, they'll also be green. Until you change the fill color, GameLab will continue to draw shapes in the color that you set. The same applies for the stroke of your shapes. If you don't want your shapes to have a stroke or a fill, you can use the no stroke or no fill commands to make it so. The order of commands matters a lot in GameLab. You need to change the color of your stroke or fill before you draw the shape. If you were drawing or painting in real life, this would be like dipping your paintbrush into your palette before drawing on the canvas. There's lots of other commands you can use to create interesting and complex drawings. As you get more familiar with all the drawing tools available in GameLab, you'll get better at bringing your ideas to life. Happy drawing!
Alright, let's move on to the next level. In level 6, we can also make our rectangles different colors with the fill. It will set the color for every shape that comes after it in the code. Do this. Look at the code that sets the color. Change the color from blue to yellow. Add a new square by dragging a rectangle block into the code area below the fill command. The new square can go in any direction or location that you want on the screen. So first, I'm going to hit run. Alright, I've got 2 blue squares. I go to line 1 where it says blue, and I'm going to change that to yellow. I can do this 2 ways. Either one, I click that little down arrow and I choose yellow, or I can click in there and actually type the word yellow, whatever you prefer. I'm going to hit reset and run to see what happens. Alright, so I've got 2 yellow rectangles. So now I'm going to add 1 more rectangle. Reset and run. Alright, so this part of the project is done. Well, you might be wondering, it doesn't look like this picture. Remember, whatever it says to do this is what needs to be done. So this last line of do this said that I could put that extra square in any location that I choose. So therefore, this project is done. Let's move on to the next level. Ta-da! Alright, level 7 is one of my favorites. In GameLab, it matters what order your code is in. New shapes are drawn on top of the ones that came before, covering up the shapes that are drawn first. You can see the difference when you use more than one color in your code. Do this. Look at the code that draws the two rectangles. The first is drawn red and the second drawn blue. Change the red rectangle's color to green, then change the order of the code so that the green rectangle appears on top, just like our image over here. First, I hit run to see what I have. All right, I have two rectangles, one red, one blue. So my directions said to change the red one to green. So let's do that first. I'm going to click this down arrow and choose green, or I could have highlighted in here and typed the word green. Reset and run to see what happens. Okay, I have a green and I have a blue, but they don't quite look like my image over here. I have to change the order of the code so that the green is drawn over top of the blue. So in order to do this, what I need to do is I need to grab line 1 and line 2, and I need to drag them to the bottom of the workspace. And I do that by this. I'm going to click, drag, wait till that yellow line is where I want it to go, and I let go. I do the same thing for the rectangle. Click, drag, wait till that yellow line is where I want it to go, and let go. All right, reset and run. Let's see what we got. Does my picture look like their example picture? Yes, it does. This level is complete. Da-da-da! In level 8, we're now going to use ellipses. You can use an ellipse to make a circle. Do this. Look at the code that makes the ellipse. Add a new ellipse of a different color. All right, so first we hit run. We have one teal circle. That makes sense. Line 1 says fill teal, and line 2 says ellipse. I have to add one more ellipse and make it a different color. So I'm going to drag a fill color over. I can leave it yellow because remember it just says make it a different color. Doesn't say that it has to be orange. But if you want to make it orange, you can type orange in the fill. Make sure that it's all in lowercase. The fill does not like capitals. Then I'm going to drag an ellipse over. Now I hit reset and run. There you have it. 2 circles, 2 different colors. This level is done. Da-da-da! In level 9, this is your first practice level. What you will see are 3 options. Sometimes less, sometimes there'll be more. For these practice levels, you have to do a minimum of 1. But if you choose to do more, I will give you bonus points. So in this one, let's take a look at debugging the car. So for level 9 debugging the car, it says, oops, the red part of the car is hiding the wheel. Fix the program to match the picture on the right. Do this. Read the code that makes the car. Change the code so that the wheels are visible. Okay, so I have to make my car look like this car. Let's hit run to see what we've got. Okay, so we have to change the position of the wheels. Remember, whatever is drawn first in the workspace is going to show up behind everything else. So what is drawn first in my workspace? Well, let's look. The fill color is dim gray. That gives me a hint. What's dim gray in my picture? You guessed it, it's the wheels. That makes sense too because this ellipse and this ellipse, well, ellipse stands for circle. So I have 2 circles right below the fill color gray. If I want my wheels to be on top of my red car, I need to drag lines 1, 2, and 3 to the bottom of the workspace. Let's do this. I'm going to drag it down until the yellow line is where I want it, and then let go. Don't forget the ellipses. Drag this one down, and then drag this one down. Let's see what happened. Reset and run. Perfect. And don't forget too, if you ever make a real big mistake and you're not sure what happened, you have a version history. In version history, you can choose to start over or go back to a previous version. All right, so did I solve the puzzle? Did I do what I was supposed to do? Yes, I did. So this level is done. Notice though, when I hit finish, it kicks me back here. That's because if I want to, I can pick up letters B and letter C as well. I don't want to, so I'm going to hit finish. All right, level 10 is super important. Do you notice that it's even a different color up here at the top? Level 10 is what's known as an assessment level. And when you're graded in programming class, half of your grade for this lesson comes from this assessment level. Why? Well, because if you have done all of these leading up to the assessment level, then you should be able to do the assessment level. So let's see what we have to do. Often, code doesn't work the first time it runs. Programmers have to debug it. The code below is supposed to make the picture on the right, but the programmer got confused about which order the code should be drawn in, as well as how to put a square in the right place on the screen. Do this. Look at the code in the workspace. Change the code to make the picture on the right. You'll need to move one line of code and change the coordinates of the square. Okay, so let's hit run to see what we've got. Oh, almost, but not quite. So what was that rule about order? That's right. Whatever's drawn first shows up behind everything else. So if I want that square to be on top, I have to make sure that square is drawn at the bottom. So I'm going to grab this rectangle and I'm going to drag it down to the bottom. And now it happens to be underneath the fill purple. Let's see what happens. Oh, we're getting closer. Almost there. For this next step, I'm going to need my grid. So I'm going to click that to turn it on. Do you remember the rule for how to plot the coordinates of a rectangle or a square? If you said you need the top left corner, you are correct. So I need this top left corner of this square to be right here in order for it to make sense. So how do I know what the coordinate is for? Right here. Well, I look down below the reset button. It happens to say 148, 148. That's pretty darn close to 150, 150. So I think I'm going to round. All right, so I'm going to go to line 7, which is my rectangle line, and I'm going to change it from 175 to 150, and 175 to 150. Well, let's see what happens. And there you have it. Does this level look like that level? Yes, it does. That's how you complete an assessment level. All right, on the challenge level, the same rules apply as on a practice level. Choose one to complete, and then you're done. If you choose to do more, I'll give you bonus. Let's do letter A and learn about the new block, the point block. So there's a new block that lets you draw a single point on the screen. Stroke weight controls how big the point is. Do this. Read the code that makes the picture. Use the point block to finish the code so it matches the picture. Okay, let's see what we've got. I've got a beautiful little ladybug, but the ladybug is missing one dot, according to the picture over here. So I've got to put a dot. Let me turn my grid on. I've got to put a dot on this on this y-axis, which is 200. But where should it go? Maybe y200, x188. Let's try it. So I'm going to grab a point out of my toolbox, drag it over. Whoops. Click and drag. I said, what did I say again? Let's look. Let's try 188 and 200. So 188x, 200y. Let's see what happens. Pretty close. Pretty darn close. I could probably do better. Let's try 190. Reset and run. What do you think? Look good? I think so too. Let's hit finish. Alrighty. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, at this point, you can either continue and do a few more challenge levels and learn about some new blocks, or you can hit finish and be done with lesson 3. Don't forget to do that flip grid.